Okay, so here are your math boxes for today. In this one, Miss Hill has 3 dogs, and that's what they weigh. So the first step would be to add 56, 62, and 65. 56, 62, 65. We're adding that. So 6 and 2 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. Carry that 10. 5 and 6 is, or 5 and 1 is 6. Plus 6 is 12. Plus 6 is 18. That's 183 for Miss Hill's dogs. Mr. Hoffman's are 67, 72, and 75. Add those together. So we have 7 and 2 is 9. 9 and 5 is 14. Carry that 10. 6 and 1, 6 plus 1 is 7. 14, 21, 214. So if you did this step right, 214 for Mr. Hoffman's dogs, 183 for Miss Hill's dogs, 214 minus 183. 4 minus 3 is 1. Can't do that, so this is going to become 100. This becomes 11. 11 minus 8 is 3. 1 minus 1 is 0. So 31 pounds. But that's not the whole step. The whole step is to, the last step is to turn that into ounces. So that would be 31 times 16. And if you did partial products here, we'd be doing 10 times 30, that's 2 zeros. 1 times 3 is 3. 10 times 1 is 10. 6 times 30, put a 0. 6 times 3 is 18. And 6 times 1 is 6. 0, 0, 0, 6. 1 and 8 is 9. And 3 and 1 is 4. So I get 496 ounces doing it that way. Again, if you got stuck, feel free to pause the video where you got stuck and rework that, then hit play and continue on. It doesn't work to move the screen when you're holding the marker. Okay, so this one I talked about. I did the first 2. I was going to have you try the last 3. 422 times 5. Okay, if I'm doing times 400, there'd be 2 zeros. 5 times 4 is 20. Then if I did 5 times 20, there'd be 1 0. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 2 is another 10. So I get 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2. So over here I get, we did these ones yesterday. This one you get 2,110 for. I'm going to do this one first because it's multiplying, and that's what we were just working on. Again, you probably needed scratch paper. There's not enough room to probably do this. 613 times 5. Okay, again, if I'm doing 600, there's 2 zeros from the 600. 6 times 5 is 30. Now I'm doing 5 times 10. I can just do that one in my head. That's 50. And 5 times 3 is 15. Add that. 0, 0, 5. 5 and 1 is 6. 0, 3. So I get 3,065 for this one. Now this one is the one that I imagine was probably the trickiest for you. It's 2,590 divided by 5. So again, a 5 can't go into just the 2, but we're going to look at this 25, okay? And we're thinking 5 times what is 25? 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Works out perfectly. But then we got to fill in these extra place values with zeros and do that out here too, because 5 times 5 will get you 25, but 5 times 500 gets you 2,500. We subtract 0, 9, then we get a 0 and a 0, but I'm not going to write those in. So now we're thinking 90 divided by 5. And some of you might know that, or maybe you counted, but another thing you could do is go, how many 5s can go into 9? Just 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Add a 0. Add a 0. 5 times 10 is 50. And then you get a 0 and a 40. Okay, now it's how many 5s can go into 40 if we count them by 5s. And that's 8. 5 times 8 is 40. And subtract. So your answer is on the side. 500 plus 10 is 510. Plus 8 is 518. So, a little bit of work on that one. Stuff I think that you can do. Hopefully you're able to do. And if you got stuck, just go to the step that was kind of tough for you and try and get going, pause me, and go again. For number 3, this one was, she's got 7/8 of a mile to go. She went 3/8 of it. How much more does she have to go? 7 minus 3 is 4. And then the eighths would stay the same. Now, if you wrote this as 1/2, that's also acceptable because 4/8 is the same as 1/2. In box 4, I have to solve both of them because I just told you to pick one and I didn't really care which one you did. But I'm going to make them, actually they're pretty big. Did I make them any bigger? Oh, that's really big. Alright, so taking a look at these two. If you were doing the first one, I'm going to do them in red because of the blue banner up here. 9 can't go into 8. So you could say how many 9s can go into 83 though. And maybe you're not sure. If you knew your 9 facts though, 9 times 9 is 81. So 9 times 9 is 81, put a 0 there, put a 0 there. 9 times 90 is 810. 6 minus 0 is 6, 3 minus 1 is 2, and 8 minus 8 is 0. So now we're thinking, how many 9s can go into 26? And the answer to that is 2. 9 times 2 is 18. This is going to become a 1. Excuse me, that's going to become a 1. That's going to become a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So in this one we have a remainder. And because it's not a word problem, we don't know what this remainder represents. So this is a case where you can just get your answer. 90 plus 2 is 92, and write your remainder, which is 8. So 92 remainder 8 there. Over on this side, again, 7 can't go into 6, but it can go into 65. And that's probably a pretty tough one for you. 7s are usually a fact that 4th graders aren't the best with. But you might remember, a good place to start here could be, I might use a 7 because I know that 7 times 7 is touchdown, touchdown, 49ers. And it doesn't matter what you do, as long as, again I added a 0 to both of them, as long as it's smaller than 65. 2 minus 0 is 2. This becomes a 5. This becomes a 15. 15 minus 9 is 6. And 5 minus 4 is 1. Well, now we're going to look at 7 can't go into 1, but it can go into 16. How many 7s can go into this 16? 2. 7 times 2 is 14. Put a 0, put a 0. And subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. 6 minus 4 is 2. And now we can do how many 7s go into 22? 3. 7 times 3 is 21, and subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1, and 2 minus 2 is 0. Again, we don't know what this remainder 1 represents, so it's adding. 7 plus 20 is 90, plus 3 is 93. Remainder 1 is what you should have had there. Now for this next one, it was asking you what patterns you saw. And I'm going to write in the answers real quick here rather than solve them all. I have 1015, 307, and 210, or 2110, excuse me, 518, and the last one was 3065. And they're asking you what patterns you see. Ones that kids generally see is that everything in this column either ends in a 5 or a 0. And What you may also notice is that if the number that's coming in is odd, it always ends in a 5. If it's even, the number going in is even, it always ends with a 0. So odd ends in 5, odd ends in 5, even ends in 0, even ends in 0, odd ends in 5. So those are things that you might notice. They're also all these are also all multiples of 5. That would be another thing, but that's kind of getting out there. Yeah, that's an assumption that maybe some of us could have made. So those are your math boxes for today. That were assigned yesterday. Stay tuned for your lesson.